Hi, everyone. Welcome to our live 10 Questions with series. And you know it's live because someone will not leave me alone currently. So he's joining for this intro. This is Cash. Welcome, Cash, to 10 Questions with. But this isn't about dogs. Today, we actually are going to be talking to David Libertson. He's the president of Ronin Gallery. And just like we do always on this series, we're going to talk to him about his journey in starting Ronin Gallery and becoming the president of Ronin Gallery, the start, and then his lessons that he's learned along the way, with the hopes of helping all of you in your journeys too. Now, Ronin Gallery, it is one of the world's leading dealers in Japanese woodblock prints and home to one of the largest collections of 17th to 21st century Japanese prints in the United States. David will discuss what it means to run an art gallery, the strategy behind it, and how he's leveraged technology to help the 46-year-old family-owned and operated business continue to evolve. This is our very first art gallery on 10 Questions With, so I'm super excited to dive in. But before we bring David on, a reminder that if you have any questions throughout today's conversation, make sure you leave them in the comments. And don't forget to shout out. Tell us where you're tuning in from. We know that you're joining from all different parts of the world, and we want to give you a ciao, an hola, or whatever, or right back at you. Now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming the president of Ronin Gallery, David Libertson. Hi, David. How are you?
Hey, Kendall. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. As I told our audience, this is our very first art gallery on the show, so I'm really excited to put you in the hot seat.
Well, I'm happy to be in the hot seat, and I was happy to see that Cash is joining us as well.
He's never done that before, but you know, there's a first for we're having two firsts on today's show, I guess. Now, I gave a little bit of insight to Ronin Gallery, but can you tell us about it in your own words?
Sure. So the Ronin Gallery is, as you said, we are one of, if not the largest collection of Japanese woodblock prints in the United States of America. We have been a public art gallery for 46 years and family owned and operated for that entirety of that time. But, you know, the gallery wasn't just founded by my parents in 1975. Its true origins lie with my grandfather, who was a merchant marine radio officer in the South China Seas in the 1920s.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he brought back art, including woodblock prints, from every port of call he made landing. And subsequently exposed them to his three kids. My father, who was a real estate executive in the 1960s, having been exposed to Japanese woodblock prints, found himself in the position to purchase the remnants of Frank Lloyd Wright's collection. Little do many people know, Frank Lloyd Wright actually had a very large collection of woodblock prints and actually settled some of his debts by giving woodblock prints to the people he owed money to. Frank Lloyd Wright had a saying regarding woodblock prints, and that's that the prints choose who they love, and then there's no salvation except surrender. Quite literally, that is a quote that has been written on a piece of cardboard and has traveled with us through all of our different galleries.
Wow. Wow.
My dad surrendered. He surrendered completely. You know, he and my mom began traveling the world, amassing what, like we already alluded to, is either the largest or one of the largest private collections of Japanese woodblock prints in the United States today. In 1975, bringing the story full circle, they transformed their avocation into an evocation and opened the gallery on the 4th floor of the Explorers Club Mansion. That's another story for another time, but we've never looked back since.
Wow. So, I mean, you already hit. I was going to tell you, we're putting you in the hot seat, but you already started. You're already in the hot seat because you answered question number 1, which was, I wanted to know the genesis story of Ronin Gallery, and there it is right there. It's really, you know, it started as a passion project, right?
Absolutely. I mean, 100% intergenerational passion, not just the passion of the founders, but a shared passion that connects us through time.
And I'm going to ask you about your shared passion in this at the end of our conversation. But to get into question number 2 here, how do you think passion like that shapes the longevity and success of a business 46 years later? I mean, you're talking, let's say we're talking to somebody in the audience right now who has a passion, and they're following it, they're considering whether or not they should really turn this into a business or what have you. How do you think something like that can shape the longevity and the sustainability of a business or an organization or an art gallery?
Yeah. Well, with an art gallery, I mean, the exciting thing is, I always tell my staff, we don't collect with customers over a transaction. We connect with them over a shared passion that leads to a transaction. I mean, we alluded to this again, that it's that passion for the art that inspired my grandfather to collect his first print, my parents to build their collection and found the gallery, and inspired me to take my first steps into the family business. You know, I never got to meet my grandfather, who was my namesake, but I really feel connected to him through time over this shared passion. I have works of art that he collected in our collection, and having the opportunity to look at a work that he collected in the 1920s and have a dialogue with him through the grave over a piece of artwork that we're both passionate about, I could see what might have inspired him to purchase it. That's a very, very powerful thing. But that's my story kind of about passion. But I think the most important thing about passion is that it's infectious. If you're passionate about what you're doing, others will be as well. So I really think our passion is not what drives the gallery, but it's what's key to our success and the longevity of the gallery throughout generations.
Yeah, that is such a key point. I mean, it could be argued, right, that like if you're not starting a business out of passion, then why are you starting it at all? So I think that's a great point to make. It is infectious. Going into question number 3 here, for those of us who don't know, what's the business strategy of a gallery like Ronin? Like, what are your various revenue streams?
Well, I mean, revenue stream, we sell art. So, but there's no denying it. The Ronin Gallery is a niche business. We have always been highly focused and specialized in the arts of Japan, primarily Japanese woodblock prints. As with any business, you have to create value. So our overall strategy is to create value by connecting the right work of art with the right collector, really in a desire to help our customers build collections rather than accumulations of artwork. This is possible because we have an encyclopedic collection, as well as our key focuses on curatorial excellence, education, and accessibility. So first and foremost, as an art gallery, as any business, you have to bring great art to market. To do that, we purchase artworks directly, or we work with a network of consigners all over the world. Today, we have over 500 consigners working with us. Then you need to present that art to create value. So my standing next to Hokusai's Great Wave doesn't make it any more valuable, no matter how good I think I look or whatever. But if I can help my collectors better understand the work aesthetically, academically, even financially, I create and add value as an art dealer. But even that doesn't matter if I'm not able to put eyes on the art and make it accessible. And that's our kind of one of our key focuses here at Ronin. That means breaking down the geographic constraints of the art market. It means presenting works at a variety of price points so that everyone can participate in the art world regardless of their socioeconomic background. My father has a saying, and that is, in order to master the art of living, we have to live with art. And I've always embraced that particular doctrine. And I believe that everyone should be able to live a masterful life, regardless of where they live or how wealthy they are. To get more into the nitty-gritty of running an art gallery, to do all of that, we've embraced this click and mortar model. We operate a retail gallery in the heart of Manhattan. We participate in select art fairs. We operate our e-commerce website. We produce 4 to 8 highly curated in-gallery exhibitions a year, over 30 online exhibitions every year, spread between traditional, modern, and contemporary Japanese prints and Japanese art. And each year we also participate in major museum exhibitions through loans or produce scholarly catalogs. We're a very small team. Right now there's 3 people in the gallery with me. I really like to think that we punch above our weight class.
So in becoming president in 2012, what aspects of the business did you want to preserve? You just named so much that you guys do, and in so many, like the ways that you really, really touch your customers and understand your, the art and understand the business and understand your customer. So what areas of the business did you want to preserve when you came in 2012? And then where did you see opportunities for growth? Like, what did you want to come and bring to the table coming in as president?
I mean, first and foremost, I wanted to make sure that Ronin Gallery remained a destination to discover the very best of Japanese prints and Japanese art. I mean, I knew that had to be preserved. But I also really wanted to preserve that old world gallery charm and personalized attention that the gallery has been known for the last 46 years. You walk into these mega galleries now down in Chelsea or any of the big art capitals, and it's like walking into a museum. It could be a little intimidating. There's an expectation that the work of art on the wall is multi-million dollars, and you have to be a multi-millionaire to even ask a question or be taken seriously. I don't want people to feel that way when they come into the Ronin Gallery. I don't want them to be intimidated by art. I really want to make the art buying experience comfortable, fun, and exciting. There's a sense of discovery when you find a work of art that you want to hang and live with in your home. My mom, who was an arts educator, was really good at that. I grew up in the gallery. I literally had a crib growing up in the gallery. And one of the things I've always remembered and taken with me is that everyone who walked into the gallery received individualized attention. So regardless of whether or not they left with or their visit concluded with a purchase, or they left with a work of art under their arm, they left with a smile on their face and a little bit more knowledge than when they came in. So I really never want to lose sight of that personalized attention and that what I like to call old world gallery charm of connecting with people under the auspices of connoisseurship and sharing of knowledge. So my goal when I took over the gallery in 2012 was to find a way to combine that old world gallery charm with innovative digital initiatives and marketing to try to create a personalized experience, whether you're in the gallery or experiencing the art from your couch at home.
Right.
On a side note, I also really enjoy curating exhibitions that juxtapose works from our past collection and our traditional works with contemporary works. I'm committed to expanding our contemporary division and really trying to provide opportunity to the next vanguard of Japanese artists.
Awesome. What challenges are particular to a family-owned and operated business like Ronin, and how did you, because I mean, coming in after however long, I mean, I know you guys are, it's 46 years now, so let's call it, you know, coming in at around, what, 40 years, how do you come in and initiate some of this change? Like, what are challenges that you had to overcome to do so, especially when you're trying to digitize it a little bit?
Oh, really good question. You know, a family business faces a lot of the same challenges that affect any business, but we also have a unique set of challenges and difficulties. So succession planning is tricky.
Yeah.
Managing employees who have been with us since the beginning versus new hires. There's a little bit of this, you can't teach an old dog new tricks that you have to overcome and learn how to work around. I think the best way to do that, and the way that I've overcome it, was to really have clear divisions of labor so people could own certain tasks while still encouraging a collaborative environment. Easier said than done. I also think that one of the really biggest challenges to running a family business is you take your work home with you. The good news is you always have something to talk about over the dinner table, right?
Yeah.
But you know, there are certainly frustrations, and we do get frustrated with each other. But we're a family, and we care about each other, and we care about this business, and we make it work. And we're all aligned in our goals for the business. My dad jokes that he used to have the biggest office and now has the smallest.
Is that yours now? Is the big office yours?
Well, I before I decided to implement NetSuite, I decided to purchase and build a custom-built gallery in New York City. So yes, I did build myself the biggest office.
As you should, as you should. We actually are going to get into the NetSuite story a little bit here, but first, how have you leveraged technology to help the business continue to evolve, you know, having come in 2012? And like you said, try to digitize it, you know, expand with your customers, expand the experience, expand the opportunities. How has technology helped in all of this?
Yeah, another great question. Technology is really, for me, about three things. It's about increasing efficiency, it's about increasing accessibility, and it's about increasing personalization. So digitizing our collection of thousands of works of art makes them accessible and searchable, both internally and to our customers, right? So if you imagine walking into the gallery, we have 150 flat file storage drawers, floor to ceiling, filled with works of art. You can't go through that in a single day. It would take a tremendous amount of time. But if it's digitized and I put it on an iPad, I could scroll through it very, very quickly and identify the right work of art. So it really makes us much more efficient in our ability to work with the collection to find the perfect work of art for each and every collector, first and foremost. But it also enables us to complete the back office tasks, those dreaded back office tasks, and free up a tremendous amount of more time to spend on curation, cataloging, and working with our collectors, doing the things that we're passionate about. Going back to passion. It's also important.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's really important to remember that when the gallery began, the art world was geographically constrained. So what do I mean by that? If you didn't live in a major metropolitan city or area or one of these capitals of the art world, it was really difficult to experience art. Art fairs bridge this gap, but they're temporary. The internet blows the art world wide open. I think it's one of the most democratizing forces for the dissemination of culture worldwide. It transcends geographic boundaries. So, you know, people can experience art from anywhere now. I mean, that's an incredible, powerful tool. So, you know, we have a network of over 10,000 collectors in 40 countries. We have thousands of works of art. We work with over 500 consigners at any point in time. I couldn't connect the dots if it wasn't for the technology. So it allows us to operate on a global scale efficiently.
So prior to running Netsuite, as you alluded to, you guys implemented Netsuite earlier this year. Prior to doing so, what systems were you using, and what barriers to growth did they present in, you know, this opportunity and this expansion, this ability to kind of work across, you know, both the digital and the real, and with as many consigners as you work with, and so on and so forth?
So how much time do you have?
Not a whole lot, but I would love to hear a summarized version.
So first of all, we've embraced technology since we launched our first online gallery in the mid-1990s. I wasn't doing that. That was my mother's initiative and my father's initiative. We've utilized everything from proprietary built systems to third-party art-specific solutions. And each and every time we were promised a foundation we could build off of. And every single time we found ourselves completely rebuilding our platform every 5 to 10 years.
Oh, gosh.
One of the most valuable things we have is our data. We have 46 years of data, but every time we have to migrate, we lose data. And as a small business with 4 staff in the office with me, that completely diverts our attention away from what it is that we do, which is selling art. So with that said, you know, what were we on immediately prior? It was a hodgepodge. So we were on Magento to run our e-commerce. We were on QuickBooks to run our accounting and financing, MailChimp for our email marketing program. We had a system of binders to manage our consignments and consigners and consignment records, physical binders that go back to 1975. Our inventory records were held in a paper ledger or multiple paper ledgers. There was no integration between our digital inventory management system and our physical inventory management system. We spent countless days, sometimes weeks each month, manually matching up sales receipt to our consignor records, going through the binders, etc., making entries into paper ledgers, looking for a specific work of art. You know, I think the terminology that tech people use is there was a lot of slack in our system. So, you know, it was just a constant struggle.
Yeah.
It required so much manual lifting to connect all of these various pieces. And part of the reason it worked was my mother, who is like an elephant. She remembers every work of art which came into the gallery. She remembers where she got it from, who she purchased it from, where it went, and where it lives in the gallery, and how much she paid for it. It's really incredible. But unfortunately, like as you could probably expect, where's that information?
Yeah.
It's in her head. So
yeah.
How do I, as a multi-generational business, initiate that knowledge transfer so we could keep all that information so it could be utilized for the next 46 years?
Right, right.
This was this is my mark of shame, but there were also issues because our point of sale system in the gallery didn't integrate with our e-commerce solution. So there were instances where we would sometimes sell the same work of art twice.
Oh gosh.
Hands down, my least favorite phone calls to make. And we have fabulous collectors, and some of them were nice and understanding. But it cost us clients, it cost us sales.
Yeah.
So, it started to feel like, no pun intended, I was David fighting Goliath all the time, trying to, deal with these insurmountable challenges as a small business. And without the teams necessary that bigger businesses, which are dealing with similar issues, have to allocate towards those solutions. So major.
So, yeah, I mean, a lot to overcome there. You talk about succession planning. That's a big part of it. We have family-owned businesses have generational systems that they've been using that have made it through, but eventually you have to move on. Eventually you have to figure out how are we going to make it, like you said, make this last for the next 46 years. So why did you decide to implement NetSuite to overcome some of these obstacles, including like duplicative sales or what have you?
So my most important thing is I wanted after having seen since the mid-90s how many times we've done this process, I really wanted a partner who was, and I use the word partner, not vendor.
Yeah.
I really wanted a partner who was going to stand behind the solution that I was being offered. I didn't want to reinvent the wheel again. This is the second time I'm doing it since taking over. And it's a big lift. It's a big lift. So I wanted a foundation that I could finally build off of, that I could leverage and I could continue to develop onto. And with NetSuite, I'm always on the latest and greatest version of the software. So I'm not left behind because I signed up 5 years ago. I'm still operating on the latest and greatest. And to be honest, I felt confident that with a Fortune 100 company like Oracle, you guys weren't going to go anywhere. Which is important when you have a business with as long as a track record as we have, in the hopes that it might even continue on to the next generation.
Right.
I also knew I really needed a single system which integrated all of these separate elements. So, for example, if a customer were to pick up the phone and call, I could quickly pull up their sales history to make recommendations specific to them, getting back to that personalization. I'm not my mother. I don't have her memory. I can't remember 10,000 plus customers. But with data, it enables me to provide the same level of service for everyone. I also knew that I needed an efficient way to track thousands of unique inventory items in-store and online from hundreds of unique consigners. I wear multiple hats. I do accounting, I do sales, I'm as an owner of a business here, you touch every aspect. I knew I wanted a single point solution that was going to provide me with a 360-degree view of my business. So if I was in Japan in an auction, I knew what was going on in the gallery.
Right.
NetSuite, what I liked about it, solved all of those things natively with just their ERP solution. But that was only part of our pie, because what really convinced me to go with NetSuite was the integration with SuiteCommerce Advanced. Having a seamless integration between our ERP and our e-com solution was totally integral to our strategy of making art accessible, and searchable. And knowing that both NetSuite and SuiteCommerce Advanced were under the Oracle ecosystem meant that I never had to worry about integration between the two. And I never had to deal with APIs or third-party developers again, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
There's also a quality control that I really appreciate. And I go back to the word partner because I feel like Oracle has my back. And not to be really corny, but I feel as if where before I was David fighting Goliath,
Mm-hmm.
I've now aligned myself with a Goliath. So I now have Goliath watching my back.
There you go. I love it. I love it. Well, we have 2 questions left, and we are running a little bit short on time, but I want to make sure we get to them and then at least get to 1 or 2 questions from the audience. Again, if you're tuning in, make sure you ask your question, shout out to us, tell us where you're tuning in from. We won't have too much time, but we definitely want to get to as many of you as possible. David, we have 2 questions left. So first, you know, as you said, 46 years of data stored in binders, your mom's head, and everywhere else. Multiple systems. Tell us about your implementation and the advice you would share with other business leaders from your experience with NetSuite.
Okay. So you're absolutely right. It was a really big lift. But I had the most amazing implementation team spread all over the world, all the way up through the entire organization to my executive sponsor. Everyone was on board. But you also got to remember, we implemented this solution in the middle of a pandemic. So that also created a whole nother set of challenges. Imagine digitizing those records and binders when we couldn't even physically be in the gallery.
Right.
So just having an implementation team that was aligned with us and willing to work with us and understood the constraints on our business as a result of something that we were all going through as a human race was really nice. There was a human aspect to the implementation, which I appreciated.
That's great.
My biggest advice is fourfold. 1, get started early. Realize that it's going to take time and a tremendous amount of coordination from a variety of different business elements. So get everybody on board and aligned early on. 2, divide and conquer. When we shut down the gallery because of our quarantine, I sent people home with binders, understanding that we knew that this was on our radar and had to be done. So I enabled and empowered my team to own an element of the digitization process, be it the consignment records, the inventory records, etc. 3, build a tremendously strong relationship with the implementation team. They're going to do the work for you. They are the people who are doing the lifting. And trust their advice and look at them as an extension of your team. And trust the process. Oracle knows what they're doing. I mean, I don't do this all the time, but NetSuite and Oracle does. So very realistically, I think, have faith. Keep putting one foot in front of the other, and it gets done. And I don't know if my business would be here today if I didn't digitize and do all of this work over the last year, particularly in light of what happened in the world. I still have people working remotely from all over the world, and having all of our records enables my team to function. And let me tell you, when it was April of last year and everything shut down, we weren't functioning, but we are now.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that point. Trust the process. We have 24,000 plus customers all over the world. If we've seen it once, we've seen it 1,000 times. So great insight there, David. One final question for you. How will you continue to use technology to shape the future of Ronin Gallery?
Gonna be honest, I don't really know. But what I do know is that I embrace the Japanese idea of Kaizen, which is a term for continuous improvement. So in every element of our business, there's room for improvement. I think the reason we went with NetSuite was because it was a foundation that I could continue to improve upon. And that will be continued to improve by Oracle and NetSuite with every single release, even if I'm not driving the improvements there. So having a foundation that will allow me to continue our desires for more personalization, that continues to allow the art world to be less centralized, I think is really important. And I'm just excited to finally have a kind of solution which I feel like actually solves a lot of our problems and we can continue to build on, rather than have a solution that did 50% of them, and I know in 5 to 8 years I'm going to be rebuilding it.
That's awesome. Well, great stuff, David. We only have time for a few questions here. I want to maybe just one. I want to get to one, though, and I think this is a good one to ask, coming off of what we just talked about in technology. What would you say to the traditionalists who don't understand the intersection of art and technology?
Well, in today's world, I mean, I could very well be considered a traditionalist myself with the rise of like NFTs and all.
Yeah, true.
So crazy. But you know, there's no substitute to seeing a work of art. I think that's what the traditionalists would argue, and I think the reality is we're not trying to substitute that. We're trying to give a way to begin the interaction with art. If somebody purchases a work of art from me digitally, eventually it gets to their home. They experience it in person. So art enables the dissemination, technology enables the dissemination of art. And I think to those who say that it's the art world is staid and traditional and should remain that way, really need to think about how they're experiencing art these days.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, I don't get the New York Times delivered anymore. I read it on my iPad.
Right.
So that is something that's going to happen whether they embrace it or not.
Right. Just like everything else. Well, David, I really appreciated this. Was such a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for imparting your advice and telling us all about Ronin Gallery. It's really awesome to hear about. And we just look forward to everything that's to come from you guys in the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
And thank all of you for tuning in. As always, we wouldn't be here without you joining in and participating in today's conversation, all of our conversations, really. And make sure you continue to tune in. We will actually be back next week on June 1st. That's Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific with the founder, co-founder, and co-CEO of Babyators, Molly Feening. That's happening next week. So we will see you there and talk to you soon. Bye.